An interesting fact. An interesting fact about Daniel that I find really incredible is that he used to be a priest, and now he's a JavaScript engineer. And I don't know how that transition happens. And I just don't know. I don't understand. I need help from a higher being to understand this. But yes, Daniel is an incredible person. He's also an incredible speaker, and Nuxt is the best thing you'll ever see. So this is a great talk, and you should definitely pay attention. Please welcome Daniel Rowe. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that intro went in a totally different direction from where I was expecting. But every word is true. But I'll be talking now about how I came into tech instead of the story of Nuxt. No, I won't do that. OK, I'm going to talk about building a better hammer. But obviously, first, I should say a little bit about who I am. So I am a maintainer. I'm an open source maintainer. I have the privilege of doing that full time, which honestly is so amazing. I'm sponsored to work on open source. And so here are some of the things that I'm involved with. I'm involved in building Nuxt, which I'll tell you about in a moment. If you don't know what that is, that's totally fine. This is going to be an acceptable, safe space for us for the next 20 minutes. I'm also building a framework called Nitro. I'm not the author of it, but I'm one of the team. And it powers things like Solid Start and Analog, which is an Angular meta framework. You can check out pagespeed.dev, which is a tiny site I launched a few months ago, which will query Google PageSpeed insights and the crux data for any website. And you can share it with a nice social image. regex.dev aims to make regular expressions type safe. It compiles to regular expressions, and you can use that in any project and any framework. Fontaine similarly does the same with layout shift for fonts. Elk.zone is a client for Mastodon, which is the better Twitter. And if you don't believe me, then I'll tell you why later. And you can see your first commit on GitHub on firstcommit.is. And go to my website, row.dev, if you want. If you want to get in touch with me, for example, later, or have any questions. That is a bit about me. This is my cat. This is one of my cats. This is Barley, and she is incredibly demanding. And basically, my coding, whether I code or not in any given moment of the day, is highly dependent on her mood and whether she wishes me to do that or not. So it's important. So I thought, just very quickly, before we get going, would you tell me whether you've used Nuxt before? And I've actually been quite, you can scan, hopefully, these QR codes, and it will update. It uses a PartyKit under the hood to sort of have a WebSocket connection, and I don't know, magic. You notice how clever I am, by the way. I have labeled these, yes, and not yet. You will have spotted that. That was deliberate word choice there. Actually, it's totally fine if you don't use Nuxt. It's just one tool among many, and I really hope I don't come across differently, because obviously I'm talking about it, and I maintain it, so I do care a lot about it, but actually it would be a huge mistake to identify too much with any one framework. I've called this building a better hammer, because frameworks are tools, and it's about tool choice and making a better tool. It's not about becoming a tool. Which I guess is probably what would happen if you identify too strongly. Oh, OK, this is great. What is Nuxt? Because even if you haven't used it, maybe you don't know what it is. It's a progressive framework built on Vue and Nitro. And progressive, for me, means that it has zero config required to start, but allows you to customize it and opt into features as you build. So the aim is for it to be intuitive, for there to be a good developer experience. Best practices built in, but to be fully configurable and extensible. And here's a little timeline of Nuxt's life. The first commit was in October 2016. I checked the Git history just this morning. Version 1 launched in January 2018. Basically, immediately after Next released the same for React, Sebastian Chopin wrote Nuxt to bring the same kind of DX to Vue. We've diverged since then. We're not just a Next for Vue, but version 1, version 2, and then work started on version 3, which was a complete rewrite. Does anyone know what to do with complete rewrites? Never do them. It's generally speaking, a very bad idea. We completely rewrote it for version 3, for Vue 3. for Vite, which was also a massive breaking change, for Webpack 5, which is another breaking change, and everything else, ESM, native, etc., TypeScript first. And now we're in version 3, and we're on the road to version 4. This is the graph is Nuxt 3 usage. We're at 51.5 thousand stars, 29 million downloads. I'm just checking, this is live, so it's different every time I look at the slide. And we're about 61% usage between Nuxt 3 and Nuxt 2, which is great. So that's like a little snapshot. Numbers don't actually matter. They're much less important than this picture, which is the contributors to Nuxt. We're very much a community-first framework. We're not driven by a company. We're not owned by anyone. We're supported by the community and by these people who have made Nuxt what it is today. And you might even see your own picture there. So I want to talk about building a better hammer. And you know the expression, right? If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Have you heard that before? I looked into the history of it. There is no source. There are a lot of people who said very similar things, and they basically became amalgamated into this thing. So I'm not going to attribute to anybody like Maslow or anyone else, because apparently it can't be. But this is a danger. When you become really familiar with any one technology or skill, you can start to shape everything into that. You can start to make every project exactly the same. And that is both a curse and a blessing sometimes. I want Nuxt to be a better hammer. So I want it to be better and better at lots of different things. So I want it to be possible to use Nuxt for your static personal blog, and I want it to be possible for you to use Nuxt for the enterprise site that has, I don't know, 500 developers working on it, or I don't know. How many developers work on a thing? 1,000. It needs to be able to do more than one thing. And you might ask me why. Because here's why. Here's one reason why. It can reduce cognitive load. So if you know how you do something in a framework or a style, you don't have to be adjusting every time. You don't have to decide at the beginning of a project, do a massive amount of work to decide what thing you're going to use, what the base framework is going to be. You can also unlock the power of conventions. So Nuxt ships with a very, very robust set of conventions, which you can, of course, fully customize. But often the power in bringing someone new into a project which has conventions that are shared is that they don't immediately have to relearn everything based on the particular team they're coming into. For reference, Tailwind CSS, right? You just know when you enter a Tailwind project how it's going to work and what kinds of things you need to write. And there might be a few little things here and there, but in general, you know how it works. And I could pick any other convention, and the point would be the same. But when I'm talking about building a better hammer or trying to make Nuxt better at more things, what I'm not talking about is trying to take over the world and, reclaim a bigger slice of the pie or something like that. So because that is a very bad thing to get into from a mental point of view, so on a personal level, and also it's a very bad thing to get into from a consumer point of view, where you think this thing is the best, I'm going to fight all other frameworks. That is a really bad thing. It does bad things to you. It makes coding, which should be magical and fun, a war and a battle to be won. That's weird. Don't do that. I want to make Nuxt magical, and I want people to use it because they love it. I don't want to be defeating other. We're not going to have a Next and Nuxt tournament sometime, and I'm going to be on a horse with a lance going against Tim. On the other, we don't want that, right? Okay, so that's not why we're making a better hammer. So mistakes were made in Nuxt 3. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to say we got some things wrong in Nuxt 3. And can I ask can anyone spot what one of the things was? One of the things we got wrong. It took way too long. Can you see, to rebuild Nuxt 3? By the way, isn't it JavaScript amazing? So I built this little component. You just give it the dates and the labels, and it uses Flexbox to space them out so they're roughly accurate in terms of time. This has saved me so much time in terms of moving dots around. But can you just see, like, the problem here is that from the first commit on version 3 to actually the release is virtually the time it took for the entire life cycle of Nuxt up to that point. I'm so sorry if you used Nuxt before that, or if you were involved in that. That was a really bad call. I'm going to actually change it, not mistakes we made, but lessons we learned, because that is actually even better in terms of thinking about things you get wrong. We made the mistake of thinking that scope and time were both things we could deliver on, and you can't, of course. You can only deliver on one of those. The other one has to be movable. We thought we could deliver a complete rewrite, and then a complete rewrite again for Vite, because Evan, bless him, he's wonderful, but he does disrupt. And he disrupted us. We were in the middle of rewriting to Webpack 5. We were in the middle of rewriting to Vue 3, which is so much better than Vue 2. But Evan, it was a big breaking change across the ecosystem. It was worth it. And then he releases Vite. Can I just say, as a framework author, I mean, we love Vite now, but does anyone think about the poor maintainers who have to rewrite their entire framework to accommodate it? Nobody thinks of them. I'm here to say it was painful, but it was worth it. And now we're not going to make that mistake again, that scope and time are both flexible. Ecosystem. The Vue ecosystem took a long time to update to Vue 3. The Nuxt ecosystem took a long time to update to Nuxt 3. And everything was chained. It's a proof in real life of why waterfall doesn't work. Like, you don't want to be awaiting promise and then await the next promise, and then, I'm talking about frameworks, by the way, not JavaScript promises. We exposed too many internals. So we had lots of community-maintained modules, which I'll talk about in a second, that were relying on Nuxt internals and how it worked. Guess what? With a full rewrite, everything breaks. And we were trying to do all of this, like move the ecosystem along while also rewriting Nuxt. Repairing a moving car, bad idea. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do to make Nuxt 4 possible, and what we have done. And this comes out of these lessons we've learned. And the first is our modules ecosystem. And I've pulled out a couple of things about our modules ecosystem. So one, and this is one of the unique things about Nuxt, it is pluggable, it's hookable. So you can hook into every aspect of the Nuxt and Nitro build processes to change Nuxt behavior. TypeScript support was first added to Nuxt via a module. You can write a module so you can use Nuxt to build native web apps. You can use Nuxt to build VS Code extensions. You can use Nuxt to build Ionic apps. You can use Nuxt to build Quasar apps. You can write Nuxt to build, at first when I implemented zero JavaScript support for Nuxt, there was a module, now it's built into the core. But you can do almost anything in the form of a module for Nuxt. So if you want to do something, it's possible. And Hookable, which is an UnJS library. By the way, we took lots of the core bits of Nuxt and extracted them to a separate org with a separate governance so that other frameworks and not just Nuxt can benefit from all these things. So when I'm talking about these, it's not Nuxt specific, I very much hope. And so this Hookable integration allows people to deeply integrate with how Nuxt works and also actually get good debugging when you want to see how your application is running. We're also pluggable. So one of the decisions we took when moving from Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3 is that we would be bundler agnostic. And Anthony Fu built Unplugin in order to make this a reality. And so many integrations are now implemented through Unplugin as its own ecosystem. So it means that when we ship RSPack support for Nuxt, everything works because we have a bundler agnostic implementation. When the next amazing bundler comes along, I hope the same will be true. And internally, we use ad hoc modules, so things which actually can be dropped in and out or changed or switched around. And the aim is, so when we're then going from, say, Nuxt 3 to Nuxt 4, someone releases a new bundler, we have to rethink how Nuxt is written, or we make a different thing default. We won't. Vite is amazing. But it wouldn't be a big breaking change. And so making it possible to build on Nuxt, we actually have a Nuxt modules. We have hundreds and hundreds of Nuxt modules. They can be local to your project, they can be internal to your org, and they can be distributed on NPM. We have tooling, which enables people to build modules easily. We have a modules dataset, which is a public GitHub repository anybody can make pull requests to, and an API to get information about them. And we shipped an SDK for Nuxt called Nuxt Kit, which enables people to build for Nuxt in an agnostic way that will work whatever version of Nuxt you're on going forward. So that a change, like the change from Nuxt 2 to 3, which was awful in breaking, won't be that way again. So going from Nuxt 3 to Nuxt 4, as long as you're using our utilities, should be effortless. Keyword should. This is also live, so I've just, my slides have just queried. By the way, SlideDev, which is what I'm using, is so amazing to be able to write your slides in, like, you know, Vue components, or I don't know if it does React yet, but SlideDev is great. So we have over 205 modules, 170 maintainers, over 1,000 contributors across all those modules, 13 million downloads, and 130,000 stars. There are lots of them. Let me just show you very, very quickly how it works. Sorry. Here is no. Ooh. I've never had this before. Okay.
Sir?
No, don't. You made it weird. Okay.
This is not weird, but me calling you sir is weird.
Well, it's true.
I can't believe you did
weird.
this.
This is a Nuxt, minimal Nuxt app. And here's an example of what you can do with the modules ecosystem. So I can fire up our dev tools, which you should definitely check out. But if I open our modules panel, I can install a new module, search through our ecosystem. I'm going to pull in our Nuxt fonts module, which I wrote recently. And it's going to install it and then add it to my Nuxt config. It's going to do that in the background. It's done that. It's restarting the Nuxt server. I now have a new module which is installed. It has its own DevTools panel here. And I can do something now like font family Poppins. And that's automatically going to pull it from Google Fonts. It's going to proxy it. It's going to proxy it into your project, so it's local. It's not making a third-party request. It's going to add the required metrics to your CSS, so when it slots in, there's not as much of a layout shift. And when you build your app, it's going to be shipped with your project. So that's an example of something you can do with a module and the power that having modules gives you. I had to make it super short. You can, by the way, fetch these statistics yourself using our lovely little $fetch utility, which handles doing the r.rjson for you, so your life can be made better. Here's another thing that we want to do in Nuxt, and that is choice is really, really important. I think it's really important to me. I'm probably one of the least significant people who might say that choice is important to me. But I think choice is really important to us, and we want to provide that choice for all of our users. Here are some of the different choices we allow. And you can, with all of these, create your own custom ones. So our image provider supports all this stuff at the right-hand side. We have loads of different font providers, Google, Adobe, Bunny, FontShare. Font Source, actually, we now have as well. Databases, we support Bun, SQLite, Cloudflare D1, LibSQL, I don't know. Look at the list, there's lots of them. Over 90 providers across different things. We provide platform-agnostic deployment, KV, database support, routing, images, fonts, stories, and if you have another idea of something that could be platform-agnostic, tell me, because I would love to implement it. And the idea here, and this is why we want, this is something I really believe very strongly in. If someone asks me, what is the best provider to deploy Nuxt on, for example, and my answer is, oh, actually, it works much better on this provider, that's me not doing my job right. I want you to be able to make choices that fit your projects and the needs you have, rather than because Nuxt is going to limit you in some way. And here's another thing that we're trying to do for Nuxt 4, for Nuxt 3. So one of the things I announced at the beginning of last year when I took over leadership of the Nuxt team was to say that we would have a regular release schedule. So this is us trying to learn from the awful time of version 3. We release a patch every week, a minor every month, a major every year. At least that's what we're aiming for. And that means that hopefully bugs get fixed quickly. Hopefully new features ship relatively quickly without a lot of hype. And what we do is we have an ecosystem CI, which is a pattern we borrowed from Vite, which is now being adopted across the ecosystem. And that is before every release, we can test every single project that is in that ecosystem CI, so we know if the new version is going to break anything. Downstream. Obviously, we have our own test suite internally, but sometimes you need to test downstream to see if anyone is relying on some feature that you have. And that means that we can push quite hard on new features because we know we're not going to break people. We also have an opt-in mechanism. So most of Nuxt functionality is only enabled on use, which means your bundle size stays good. So our utilities, even on the server, they're not like Express added to the prototype of the request object or whatever. They're auto-imported when they're used. So they are only in your bundle if you require them. So here are some of the things we've shipped. I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to ship Vue Transitions API as early as we did, 1 week after the public announcement. And we have lots more things on the way. Most of those are there, only the bottom one is on the way. And some of the ways we're working to make things more stable is we have a test utils package, which lets people test their Nuxt modules. We have not just our ecosystem CI, but we integrate with others. So we're in the Vue ecosystem CI as well, the Vite ecosystem CI. So we're all checking that nothing is going to go wrong. And we've adopted forward compatibility features like future and features namespaces. So even before we release Nuxt 4, as soon as the features are available, people can opt into them with a config change. And after they adopt Nuxt 4, they can opt out of it with a config change. And I am hopefully soon to release a downstream testing action so people can actually test in their own third-party projects that can't be tested in ecosystem CI, the latest Nuxt nightlies, so they know if things work. And just a couple of days ago, I opened over 200 pull requests to Nuxt modules to update them to a new syntax for installing Nuxt modules. So rather than having to do npmi, you could just do something like nuxi module add and then the name of their module. Powered by a modules registry. It's also great for my contribution chart on GitHub. But it's so nice to be able to do and like bring the ecosystem along with you. And we've already shipped 2 breaking changes. We've adapted all Nuxt modules that we're aware of that depend on the previous behavior to a forward and backward compatible module via proactive pull requests to make that migration from 3 to 4 less of a breaking change for people. And if you maintain any library that depends on Nuxt, you're very welcome to open a PR to ecosystem CI. I would love it to be there, and we'll test it and guarantee we don't break you in a release. We also commit to baseline features with the Web Platform DX, and here are some other things that we are working on. But I'm aware I'm very out of time, so I'm going to move on quickly. And we evaluate usage information with our telemetry, which is opt-in, which lets us know what features to prioritize. Nuxt 4. It's not about the hype. We don't actually ship features in majors. We ship features in minors, people. So Nuxt 4 is about breaking changes. It's not about new features. I'm really sorry to tell you that. I'm going to release another minor before we get to Nuxt 4. That minor is going to have all the features. Nuxt 4 is going to be about thoughtful breaking changes. It's going to be opt-in and out. And our focus is going to be trying to reassure people they will never experience anything as painful as the migration between 2 and 3 ever again. Like, that is my top priority. Having said that, we are shipping a new directory structure by default. You can opt back into the previous one. This will enable some performance improvements owing to the complexities of file system watchers and TypeScript environments. We're going to opt into more performant defaults, like the fact that we're not going to have deeply reactive payloads or reactive runtime configuration, and we'll be able to use native browser features where possible. And there's some best practices that we're going to be implementing, like absolute paths and build a watch hook, removing a pending Boolean in favor of... This is really exciting, isn't it? I can tell you're like, they're removing the pending Boolean. Haha, this is the stuff we came for. If you want to help, I would love that, by the way. We are trying to improve our docs so they're better if you want to get involved. You can come on Discord or GitHub to get involved. There's a nuxters.nuxt.com, and you can get a special Discord badge. Gamified PRs, that's what we're talking about. And by the way, if anyone wants to get involved in not just in Nuxt, but in open source, and you think I could help you in any way, particularly if you feel in some way like you're an outsider or you might not be welcome, please, I would love to talk to you. You can go to ro.dev/chat and book a meeting anytime. I would really like to tell you face-to-face, you would be welcome. And if you're interested in Nuxt, you can check out the docs, follow Nuxt on Twitter or Mastodon. You can join our Discord server. You can follow me on Twitter. Reach out to me anytime. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. It has been an honor.